Just let's take a look at what one needs to know before buying property, or what's certainly advised. Buy ready to move in property. Avoid the risk of buying a promise, as they say. If you do have to buy under construction property, make sure that the property is pre-approved by at least one of the big lenders like Axis Bank, HDFC, ICICI or SBI. While the liability remains yours despite the pre-approval, it is still better than properties that aren't pre-approved. Never ever choose an advance disbursement facility.
Let's try and get some answers on how you can prepare yourself better for that real estate investment. Joining us here is Harsh Rungta of Apnapaisa and Ashish Sinha, a buyer in the property developed by Mahagun, who's also affected by that decision. And Harsh Rungta, if I could come to you first. In fact, given all those guidelines that you often tell investors, look for groups that bank loans are already approving, look at properties that have already been approved by authorities like the Noida Authority, like the Gurgaon authorities. In a sense, the investors in this particular case checked all those boxes. They had in fact got bank loans. They had in fact gone for a property development approved by the Greater Noida Authority. So how do they protect themselves against an order like this one?
So you are absolutely right. I think the land here has actually come from the government itself, which would logically have cured any title defects that might have existed earlier. So I mean, it's very, very difficult to guard against something like what has happened in this particular case. So I mean, that is why that overall advice that preferably buy ready property. Not that takes away risks like this one, it could still have happened, but it reduces the element of risks. So buy ready-made property, and obviously if it is approved by a couple of the larger banks, it is less riskier than if you were buying it from a property that's not approved by them. But as you rightly said, in this particular case, these boxes were ticked. And I think it's very difficult to guard against the kind of risk that we have seen in this particular instance.
Even so, can something be done, Mr. Rungta? We have a question, in fact, from one of our viewers.
Ashish Sinha, given the Supreme Court's verdict, is that an option you want to exercise, that you might want to in fact return the flat?
Yeah, in fact, I would like to, but at the moment what the situation is, the ground situation is like, if I want to surrender my flat, so I have been told by Mahagun officials that they will deduct the 10% of the basic selling price. So that is going to, in fact, I have booked 2 flats in Mahagun. So I know that is going to affect me around 4.5 lakhs. So it's a big amount. The thing is, like, I am still with Mahagun. I believe on them. That is why we invested there. But the thing is, I am talking about the entire community, builder community over there. They are still not very transparent. They were not transparent at the time of booking. When we booked in December or November, right. So they never disclosed us that this property is disputed, this land is disputed. Right. This was not even mentioned in their catalog. This should have been mentioned. In fact, when we booked the Mahagun property, so there was a piece of land which is affected now after the Supreme Court verdict. So they were saying this is future development land. So we were hoping this land is of Mahagun, they will develop it. So we were knowing that this vicinity, close vicinity of ours, is going to be a well-developed society, not agricultural land. Right. So even today, if we go to them, they are not very transparent. 1 month back, they were telling that they have almost settled the issue with the farmers. And
now it's very clear that that issue is far from settled. Yeah. Many dreams shattered in a sense. Harsh Rungta, what is the redressal, if any? All builders, including Mr. Sharma here, are saying or promising that in fact they will compensate those who have bought these properties, that they will return the money if needed. On paper, that might be true. In practice, does that happen?
Well, I think that's a question that Mr. Sharma would be much more qualified to answer. But I think, really speaking, at least in this specific case, I think to blame the builders would not be really right, because I think the problem is between the government and the state government and the land that was occupied, that was acquired in a manner that is not probably legal, and I think clearly any losses or compensation that is required to be paid should logically be paid by the state government. That appears a little difficult to enforce. So as I said, this is a one of a kind case. I mean,
Right.
this is not the kind of thing that happens every time.
Right.
But I think this just reinforces the fact that you should look at ready to move in property rather than go for the what shall you say, the ephemeral
Right.
promise that is contained in an under construction flat.
Right. This may be a one-off case, but given that more and more land acquisitions are coming under the cloud, one may well see this. Right. Mr. Rungta, there's a question on ivnlive.com on web as well. Neha, one of our viewers, writing in to ask, at this point, if somebody wants to withdraw from the ongoing project, what is the procedure for it, and will the buyer have to bear some loss? A margin, as Mr. Sinha was pointing out, will certainly be a loss for the buyer.
Yeah, well, that's what it looks like. Again, I think it will depend on the specific builder that Neha is contracted with, and clearly that the loss can be fairly large for a person of average means. So, I mean, buying a specific property or not buying it is a decision of the purchaser, and clearly the risks and the rewards. There are rewards of buying property. So the risks and rewards both come along with the ownership. But can I quickly respond to what I think Mr. Sharma said?
Right.
See, from a consumer perspective, although I agree that for the builder, the people buying the under construction property is a very valuable source of finance. But from the perspective of the end consumer, typically, if he does a little bit more effort, he should be in a position, especially in well-developed cities, to be able to get comparable ready-to-buy property with comparable amenities
Right.
and probably comparable locality advantages. And I think from a consumer perspective,
Right.
that's much better than buying under construction.
For the moment, though, Mr. Sharma saying perhaps that is not practicable, even as the government looks again at its land acquisition policy. Certainly, it seems as if a dream of a roof over one's head has gotten even more difficult for the consumer. We'll have to wrap it there. Thanks a lot for joining us, Harsh Rungta of Apnapaisa, as well as Mr. Sharma.